People don't pay their tithes, but they come wanting prayer. They come wanting for you to go to the hospital. They come wanting you to visit the sick and raise the dead. You know, my brother got shot. Can you pray? I mean, what do you want? I'm not saying that we're selling prayers.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, but if this is your house and you serve at this house,
yes,
take care of it. Because it put less pressure on your leaders. It put less pressure on your pastor.
Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Cheryl Polote-Williamson, and I am super excited that you have joined us here on the Ageless, Fearless, and Unscripted podcast. This is the space and place where people come to be loved, to be seen, to be heard, to be valued, and to get information to help you take your life to the next level. I am super excited about my guest in the studio today. It is Pastor Yorie Gipson. How are you, Queen?
I am blessed, and thank you so much for having me on this beautiful day, on this wonderful podcast.
I am so super excited because when I reached out to you, you said yes, yes, and yes right away. And I love that because I fell in love with your spirit online. We met each other at an amazing conference in person, but it was like we already knew each other. We both had the opportunity to speak at this specific conference, and we just stayed in touch since then. So I knew when the Lord allowed me to do season 2 of Ageless, Fearless, and Unscripted that I had to get Ageless, Fearless, and Unscripted with you, sister.
Amen.
So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Pastor Yorie, yes, your story is one of profound transformation. When people first meet you today, what would you wish they understood about the road that it took for you to get where you are right now?
It's so much, but I'm going to give a little bit.
Okay.
The road that it took, a lot of prayers. Folks will look at me when I share my testimony. They'll say, it doesn't look like you. If I may, I'm not ashamed of where I've been. You know, I grew up in the church, but I came from the drug world, you know, selling drugs at a young age, running the streets with drugs, traveling to different states. And when I share that with people, they'll say, it don't look like you, or you're lying, or something that. So that's my transformation. See, there's no residue on what God's cleaned up.
Yes.
See, when a man cleans you up, then you can go back and find something. But when God does it, you wonder, is it true or is it so? Because God put an all moment in your thought to say, I can't believe it. So that's my transformation story. And I'll keep telling the world what God has done for me. Yes, I've been in the church. Yes, I grew up in the church, but I had my own thoughts to say, I got tired of church as a child, you know, and I wanted that life that I made in my mind to have. And I created that world. Did that world suit me well at the time? I thought it was going to suit me till death do me part from this land, but there's consequences attached to it. You know, thank God I didn't go to prison, but my mind was in prison. You know, my mind was in prison, so I had to escape it. And how did I escape it? I had to go back to foundational. And foundation is how I was raised in the church. So that's how I got back to Christ.
So, Pastor Yorie, that is powerful. And I want to dig in for a moment because a couple of things you said I know are going to help some people in this moment. Was there a rock bottom moment when you were going through your transformation that made you say, you know what, I can't live like this anymore. I have to do something different in order to get something different? And what was that?
That moment was abuse. I try to tell folks, fast money brings some form of abuse, whether it be the mental abuse, the physical abuse. And it was abuse for me, the physical abuse, and telling me that no one's going to want you with 3 children, or breaking your rib cage, 8 and 9. Them numbers, I still remember them. So I had to get myself back into a place. God, where are you? God, and this is what the Lord spoke to me in 1990. He says, you won't remember the shame of your youth. So every time I look in the mirror, I say, God, you're making me feel like that Benjamin Button. You keeping me. Because you said this to me, Jesus. You're keeping me, Jesus. So I know I needed to go back where my grandma said, you have to get back to school.
Yes.
Because, I didn't have schooling then. I left, when I finished high school, that was it, because I drove, I ate, I lived, I shopped. I didn't need nobody college. But I had to go back there. And when my rock bottom is when I had to go. My girlfriend called me from Alabama. She says, you got too much pride, and you ain't eating that kind of money and living that kind of money anymore. So go get food stamp. I said, food stamp? Me get food stamps? She said, yeah, you got to get them. Kids got to eat. But my kids was still getting taken care of. But it's I who had to now find a way, because I had no skill set, because everything was given to me.
Yes.
So what was I going to do? So I had to start over. I had to go back I went back to school. I went to college. I got my bachelor's. I got my master's. Yes. I got my EDS. What else? So I had to go back. I had to go back. So the enemy did not win.
No.
I won. But at the time when it was happening to me, I thought he was winning.
Of course, because that's the trick of the mind, right? That's the trick of the enemy, to always make us feel like, well, let me remind you of who you used to be, even as you walked across the stage and got each degree and all of those things.
Yes.
Well, let me take you back. And that's the beautiful thing about you. You don't let the enemy keep taking you back.
Not at all.
I see the sister who has evolved into this amazing person that sits here before me today. What does that evolving look like? I know you went back to school. What are some of the other things that you had to do for you in order to evolve? And I'm asking this because sometimes people need like a little step by step, especially people who are listening to us right now.
Right.
What's the first step that was taken in order for you to evolve into this beautiful being that we see right now?
Besides going back to school, you have to put your mind on the subjection, because, see, the enemy plays there.
Yes.
Joyce Myers wrote a book years ago, and I read that, in the 90s. That was the first one, the blue cover, the Battlefield of the Mind.
Yes.
I was reading that, going through my problems back then, and I would read it, and Divine Revelation of Hell. Those were the 2 books I read, because I wasn't trying to go to hell, and my mind was messed up, so you have to, it's a daily process, putting your mind under subjection. So that's a tidbit, but it's a step.
Yes.
To change the trajectory of what people have pronounced over you. That you're not going to be nothing, or you're not going to go anywhere.
Exactly.
But see, when you put your mind in that space and you can achieve what you think, or what your grandma tells you, like my grandma tell me, girl, you should have been a lawyer. It's just what I wanted to do, but issues got in the way. And whatever grandma tells you to do, mama tells you to do, and you put it on the shelf, go back and pick it back up, because you can do it. Just put your mind under that subjection and begin to live in that place that you set out to do. When I was a young girl, I went to private school. And while I was in private school, I was a Catholic private school, there was a guy, his name was Porter. This was a white guy, and I used to say, when I get older, I want yellow-haired children, not knowing that it was blonde. I was thinking it was yellow. And I had this thought that I want 5 children with a picket fence. So as a dreamer, then whoever have lost your dream, go back and dream again, because I dream for that to happen. See, a lot of folks don't dream no more. So therefore they don't have nothing to hold on to live on, because when the situation of life hits you, you let it washes you out.
Yes.
But when you have something that you dream, you're going to hold on to it and live again. And that's what I did. I held on to my dream and live again. So that's my involvement.
And I see it in your eyes. I want you all to come back in a few moments, because I want you to hear more from this amazing dreamer, visionary, and believer, Dr. Yorie Gipson. Come back and join us.
For many women, a mammogram starts long before the scan. It begins with anxiety over exposure. Traditional gowns can feel cold and impersonal, but there's a better way. The mammo gown is thoughtfully designed with full front and back coverage, a center front opening, and soft, non-clinical fabric, making every woman feel secure, respected, and confident during her screening. And it's more than a gown. It's a movement. Gift one for yourself and one for a friend. Order your mammo gown today and buy one for a friend. Give a gown, save a life. Visit modestymammogown.com.
Welcome back to all you dreamers, visionaries, and believers. If you were a part of our last session, then you know that I was having a conversation with Dr. Pastor Yorie Gipson, and we were speaking about dreaming and evolving. So I want to go back and visit that a little bit more. As a part of the dreaming and evolving, when you were in that season, and based on our conversation earlier, I think we're still both in that season of dreaming and evolving. Yes. What point did you reach where you decided, you know what, I need to take my dreams, my hopes, my education, and open your ministry?
Well, in 2014, the Lord said, my pastor at the time said, it's time. And I told her, time for what? 'Cause I'm not trying to do none of no church now. I go to church and pay my tithes, and that's it. She said, it's time. I said, well, you go back and tell him I ain't ready. She's like, oh, Yorie, you don't speak that way. I said, well, go back and tell God that I ain't ready.
Wow.
And she came back maybe 6 months later. He said, what you gonna do? I said, well, you tell him I'm doing it. Because it was like a transactional. Yes. He came to me as a transactional, as if I'm still out there in the streets.
Yes.
Because God comes to you as where you at. And that's how he came to me, in a transactional setting, as her being the third party, coming to me, because I wasn't trying. I had a deaf ear when it comes to doing anything other than just paying my tithes and going to church, because I see the mess. And like I said, I grew up in the church, and I just didn't want to have. You want $500? I'm gonna give you the $500,
and I'm out.
But anything else, that's it. So I had to yield, because the second time when she came back and he says, what you gonna do? It's a demand, and I didn't want me to miss out on that. So I yield to that and told him yes. And here I am, 2014 now, it's 11 years. The 11 years have not been easy. And I believe he came in that span because I just came out of a relationship 2012, 2013, and I was getting my mental together.
Yes.
And I don't think he wanted that void to be filled with something else. Because oftentimes when we go through pain and disappointment, there's a void, and we fill it with something else that's gonna really mess us up even more.
Absolutely.
Because we're not healed. We're just trying to fill a void. So why not fill it with him? And that's what happened. He says, oh, no, Negroes, I'm coming.
Yes. know what? This is why I wanted to talk to you, because I know we love the Lord, but we have to keep it 100% real in our feelings, and I know that's who you are.
Yeah, so he came and I allow him to fill the void. I allow him to fix the hurt.
Yes.
I allow him to replenish some things that needs to replenish. It's just like a mechanic, you know. He's the mechanic and we're the parts that needs fine tuning and shaping and molding, and I yielded myself for him to do all of that. So if people don't see my residue, it's because he fine tuned all of that. You know, he used the dust busters and clean it. He used the crud cleaner and clean the crud. So you can, when I speak, that's when they say, oh, I don't believe, but you have to know me to see what I've done and where I've gone, you know. But those that don't know is still in awe of me and saying, I'm not sure, but it's God. It's all God. And I'm grateful to him.
It truly is. I see the light of Christ in you. And when you're making transitions and changing to be better, have you ever had people from the past
Of course.
try to speak things over you to make you feel a certain
Ill will.
way?
Yeah. Like I shared yesterday on Bible studies, that the last person is your family to support you, because they never look at a projected you. They look at somebody that they've sat with, laughed with, robbed places with, smoked weed with, done whatever. That's what they know. They know Yorie as what they know me as. They don't know Yorie in this safe place.
Yes.
You know, but they know me when they need a prayer.
Wait, repeat that. Repeat
When
that.
they need a prayer, they know who to call.
Yes.
But when they need direction to come on with Jesus, who are you to tell me? But when they need a prayer, can you pray? So I'm good for prayer, but I ain't good to bring you into salvation. So
That makes sense.
Yes. That's family for you.
I knew this was going to be a great interview. I knew it was going to be a great interview, because the realness that the world needs to hear, family, friends, foes, needs to hear is right here in this conversation. That you can fall way off, you can come back, because we have put Christ at the center of our life. We can overcome anything. And that's what I love about being in this moment with you right here, right now, because there are people who are listening to us that feel like, oh, I did all these things, this will never happen for me. You are the epitome of what happens when you make up your mind to give your life to Christ. I want to talk about, after you make the decision to give your life to Christ and you've started the church, has it been easy?
No, it has not. We moved in that building a year ago, as you know.
Yes.
But prior to, we were doing online services. I was a former school teacher, third grade. The Lord said to me in 2019 while I was in Florida, in Port St. Lucie, I want to know why in the world I went to Port St. Lucie, because that's for retirees, old retirees. And I'm like, Lord, what am I going to Port St. Lucie for, you know? But anyway, I got a job right on the spot as a third grade teacher in Port St. Lucie while I was visiting, you know, because I'm from Miami at the bottom.
Yes.
So I was visiting. One of my classmates says, try third grade in Port St. Lucie. I'm like, when we were coming up, that's for old people. But anyway, I got the job and I taught there for 3 years, and the Lord said, it's time to go. And I'm like, where am I going, Jesus? You know, go to Atlanta. So I really didn't have a county to go to. So I was just giving my principal any place, Loganville, Lawrenceville, all the villes, you know, and he was like, which one are you going to? I said, then I came back on there and I was like, Swanee. And he was like, Gipson, make your mind up. And I said, I gotta go. He says, I don't want what you're giving me. I said, it's a letter that I gotta go, you know, because the Lord says his 2 weeks is not my 2 weeks. So that means you got to get up now, you know. pre-COVID, didn't know COVID was coming.
Yes.
And I got out the school system in 2019, May 2019. Next month, it'll be 6 years that I left the school system. And I came to full-time ministry from that time on, and last year I moved into the building. It cost me so much money to get into the building, and I can't recruit from the people because they won't pay their tithes.
Wait a minute, because I want people to hear this. We're going to have to stop right here, but when we come back, we're going to hear more about what happens when your parishioners and church members do not pay their tithes and offerings. So come right back, because this is going to be a juicy conversation.
What if a magazine felt like it was made just for you? Cheryl Magazine shares powerful stories of purpose-driven women, from entrepreneurs to creatives, trailblazers and community leaders, who are building legacy and changing the game. Each issue is filled with real conversations, inspiration, and insight for women who want more than just a good read. Subscribe today at CherylMagazine.com. Cheryl Magazine. It's inspiration for the everyday woman.
And we are back. I am super excited to finish this juicy conversation, because we were in the midst of speaking about things that happen in the church that sometimes people don't want to talk about, but we're here to talk about it today. So, Pastor Yorie, Pastor G, we were speaking on what it cost you personally to open the church that's never been recouped, and we touched on tithes and offerings. So can we dig into that a little bit and give me your thoughts on that?
Sure. As I was saying, you can't recoup the money that you put out because folks won't give their tithes. They won't pay. I put out of my own pocket $40,000 to do that church that you came to.
Yes.
Because I want it in the way that I want it. And folks will say, oh, that ain't no money. But if you give it, it's some money to me, so I can put it back in my bank account, because I did the lighting, the stage, the flooring, the drums, the organ, the keyboard, all of that were brand new. The chairs that we sit in is brand new.
Yes.
I told God, I said, God, I want to treat people how I treat myself.
Yes.
Someone told me, they said, well, you can get used things. I said, I don't want no used things. I want my butt to be the first butt on them chairs.
Exactly.
Exactly. I'm not about that. And plus, I don't even like cloth seats anyway in a vehicle. So why should I put somebody's smelly cloth seats in my church?
Right.
So everything in there is brand new. So if I can get people to pay their tithes as they say they love the Lord and this is their church,
yes,
I just think they should do it. And I think all the pastors, you'll hear that same sentiments from them. People don't pay their tithes, but they come wanting prayer. They come wanting for you to go to the hospital. They come wanting you to visit the sick and raise the dead. My brother got shot. Can you pray? What do you want? I'm not saying that we're selling prayers.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. But if this is your house and you serve at this house,
yes,
take care of it. Because it put less pressure on your leaders. It put less pressure on your pastor.
Yes.
You understand? So now the pastor don't have to cross-contaminate from her home or his home to the church, meaning that got to keep the lights on and the lights at the pastor's house is off, because you making sure that the people don't put you to TMZ and all the Z's to say that you ain't paying the church light. And the first thing they're going to say, where's the tithes money? You ain't paying none for the lights to be on. So the pastor got to take from their home or their funding to make sure you come to church and having what you need every Sunday or Tuesday or Wednesday, wherever you open your doors.
And that's powerful. And a lot of people don't want to talk about exactly what you just said because they feel like it's going to make people uncomfortable. My thought is, it's uncomfortable for the pastor to do exactly what you just said, to have to take from the house, their house, in order to keep the lights on, in order to cover funeral costs for people who are not paying tithes and offering in the church. And I think it's so critical that, based on the conversation that you and I were having earlier, I know it's a financial cost, Pastor G, but what's the mental and physical and emotional cost to you, not just when people don't pay tithes and offerings, but when they don't realize that you, as the pastor, there needs to be boundaries, that you have things in your family that you go through. Can you share, just openly, as you have been this whole time, what that feels like when you know you need to be loved on or cared about within the members of the church?
Well, before I answer that, I want to just interject this. That can also cause, if you're married, a rift in your marriage, you know, especially if you're the one, that individual always giving, you know. I'm not married, so I don't have that issue, but I would love to come home and give all of my church problems to my husband and say, just take this bag of mess, because it's too much with these people. They're not only needy, but they don't know boundaries. And if you give them boundaries, they get upset with you.
Yes.
And say, oh, Pastor acting funny now. No, baby, I'm not acting funny. I need my mind so I can come and tell you what the devil about to do to you. You know, because I'm constantly in prayer. Yes. I'm not only constantly in prayer for myself and my family, but I'm constantly in prayer for those that are in congregations. Some of the people that I don't even know DM me, Pastor G, pray for me. I don't know you, but prayer is free. Right. So I need my mind. I need the capacity to house the thoughts, yes, so I can give them to God, because I don't want to be no mad pastor.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's an easy thing to do, become a mad pastor.
Yes.
If every day you are battling with people on something, some things big, some things just very trivial. Oh, I called you twice, but they didn't realize that you were at the hospital from someone who was on the verge of dying, that you were with their family. People don't realize the mental toll that plays on you. What do you do with that? And how do you handle it?
When I taught school, my so I used to go to the mall and just buy things.
Okay.
Things that you don't even need, but you're buying. But that's your stress level, you know, release.
Yes.
What I do now for the church, I kind of block people. I block people. You call me too much, I'm blocking you, because you're messing with my space.
Yes.
And and it may be mad, it may be sad for some. Oh, look at the pastor, she don't block people. Yeah, honey. Maybe you need to start blocking some people, and then you be able to sleep at night. You don't call my house at 10, 11 o'clock. I don't care who you are.
Exactly.
Because whether I'm up, they like to say, Pastor G don't sleep. Okay, fine. But that's in my house.
Right.
That don't mean it's available to your house,
yes,
that I don't sleep.
Yes.
Don't call me because I'm available to my house at 1 o'clock. I'm not available for your house at 1 o'clock.
Right.
You know, so my dealing with is just shutting myself away from people. Just getting to my home and just shut away. You know, a pastor told me, you ain't gonna find no man be in that house. It's not about finding a man. If God have him for me, he'll come knocking at the door and be my delivery guy.
Okay, now.
he'll knock on the address thinking he's supposed to be at the address next to me. God have a way of doing what he do.
Yes.
So I don't have to be out in no socialite to find no man. But when he do come, I'm giving him everything for GRT. I'm dumping everything on him. Because I need a break. Ministry is hard as a female. Wow.
Why do you think that?
Because I think some people, not all, I think when you have male in the church, they don't want to submit to female authority. So they feel that they pass you by or dismiss your thoughts, so I just think so. So it becomes hard. It's a pull sometimes.
Okay.
It's a pull because, and especially if you have people that's coming from other denominational coming into yours, and there were Baptists or there was Methodists or somewhere, and you're now non-denominational. They fight against what your vision and what your mission stands for. So it becomes a tug and war with them. Okay. So the submission becomes less. And then it's like you have to earn who you are in that pulpit, even though it's yours.
Right.
You're still earning it, And I believe it would be the same way if Kamala had won. She would have to earn the right to be a president, even though she won it, And it's so sad that we as female, whether we're rich, poor, in between, we're still earning our position in life.
You hit the nail on the head with that, because you hear certain things, like you hear, oh, it doesn't matter how much money you have, it's never going to be enough if you're a woman. And it's unfortunate, but we see that playing out right now. And as hard as it may be for people to hear what I'm about to say, but we are ageless, fearless, and unscripted. I truly believe that it is equally hard when it's a Black woman.
Yes.
We are the most educated. Mm-hmm. We are we're outpacing everyone as
and the
entrepreneurs. Most dismissed, most disrespected, mm-hmm. all the things. But you know what? I think that there is a special place, we have a special place in God's heart, mm-hmm. for us, because He knows how the world treats us, whether it's in the pulpit, whether it's in the boardroom, podcast, whatever it is. So you have a gift. And I know and I can see that God is going to use you in a mighty way, because everything that you went through in order to transform yourself through His grace to be where you are today, there's so many people that's listening to us right now. I know the tears are falling.
Oh, they're in my eyes, honey. They got to come on down.
I know the tears are falling because of your transparency and the way that you just adamantly said it's different when you're a woman in the pulpit. Because we know it's got to be. It's different being a woman going to the grocery store.
You have some men said they won't be subservient to a woman.
Yes.
Because she leads.
Yes.
So, okay, now if you're having that gift, where do you sit in the pulpit? First ladies are just doll babies. They just sit there. And I'm sad to say it like that, but it is what it is. It's not that they want to sit like doll babies, but that's where they're seated, because husband probably don't want a co-pastor, or husband don't see a ministry calling on their lives, so they sit pretty there. That is not my call, not just to sit there. I don't want to just sit there. Right. I want to be actively doing something, because God came to fill that void in me. And I don't want to waste what He came to fill me with.
No.
So some men don't want to be subservient to women, because they said, we are the lesser vessel. And in scriptures we are, but that don't mean we're lesser, we can't roar.
No.
You hear what I said? Not because we're lesser, that doesn't mean we can't roar.
That's right. And you are definitely roaring. And I know in this season, God is going to send you the people who recognize boundaries, who see that it is time that I can't keep just showing up every Sunday and not participate in the
Yes.
church, not pour into my pastor, not check on my pastor, not make sure that my tithes and offerings are paid, because that's not what God has for you. He did not put you in this position for you to have to struggle week after week from an emotional standpoint, making yourself physically ill. So my prayer as I sit here in my spirit is that God will send the people who recognize the gifts that he has poured into you, and that they will begin to pour back into you mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and financially. I want to talk to you about being ageless, fearless, and unscripted. You wrote, I will continue to evolve while gaining wisdom, knowledge, and the beauty of being youthful in mindset and spirit. What part of you feels most youthful right now?
Know that God has given me a second chance to live again. That I can explore the areas where I thought I dropped the ball or didn't give him that portion of my life. And I'm giving it to him now, unapologetically me. I love the Lord. And he does so much great things for me. You know, he keeps me young. That's why I can skip along Freedom Friday.
Yes.
That's why I can dance and
We're going to dance today.
and just do me. And I have no regrets living. You know, so you know how some people live with regrets?
Oh, yes.
I have no regrets living. I enjoy what I did when I did it.
Yes.
Because at the time I was in sin. But at the same time, it made me who I am today. You know, it made me to look at life, and I can speak to a young girl that's been abused, that's been on drugs, that sold drugs. I've never been on drugs, but I use marijuana. You understand, like recreational drug. Everybody smoke weed, if that was the case. You know, high as a kite. But I thank God that those moments made me who I am, and I can speak from those places of experience.
Yes.
You know, and I have no regrets.
And that's a powerful thing.
So
when you can live with no regret and speak about it with such clarity and such wisdom. Yes, that's who I was, but that's not who I am today.
Exactly.
But because of what I went through, I can help you through.
Exactly. Sure can. Sure can.
What's the most fearless thing you've done recently? Not in the pulpit, but in your private life.
I'm playing the keyboard, y'all.
Yes!
I'm learning to play the keyboard. When I was younger, I used to do so. But can I be real? I was
Please
in like
do.
the 6th or 7th grade. That teacher breath was so stink, I had to tell my grandmother. I said, that teacher breath was so stink. I told my grandmother, I said, Mama, I cannot go back to him. She says, Yorie, you have to learn this. I said, Mama, no. So I just waste my grandma money. So she's going on now to be with the Lord in glory. So 2010, she went on. She was 100 years old. She taught me so much about the Lord and took me to TBN when I was a young girl. I met so many of the evangelicals back then, Dwight Thompson, R.W. Schambach, Paul and Jen Crouch. So many people. But she's gone. And when I used to hear her praying in tongues, I used to say to my brother Nigel, I said, when I get older, I'm going to speak Spanish just like my grandma.
I can't. Look, I knew this was going to be a fun interview. Because this is not even, I take that back. This is not even an interview. This is a fun conversation where people are growing, they are learning. And I want to ask this, finally, what part of your life right now is completely unscripted? What are you trusting God to reveal one step at a time?
I want to do more ministry, traveling. And as we talked about my school. I'm opening up a school, K through 5. I would love to have donors, but I won't reveal it until August at the pastor's brunch when I give all of the information about it. But as a former educator, I just think that our Black students are just left behind in areas. We are not outpacing other countries, as we should.
Yes.
We're so low on the totem pole in the education field. And I just believe when you take the classroom size are smaller, the child can learn better. Because then if that person has a deficiency, how can you get to a child with 36 students in the classroom?
I agree.
You're not going to be able to focus on about 5, 6, so him, her get lost in the sauce, so I just, I want to do that. I want to have small classroom size, individual, get what they need from the teachers or the assistant, and great resources for the students. We're going to have STEAM, so we want to put the arts in it, not, and go from there.
I am excited. I want to always end by having the opportunity for you to speak directly to the hearts of everyone who is listening and who is viewing us. So, Pastor Yorie, before we close, if you could for me, please take a moment to speak directly to the women and men who are sitting in silence, broken, stuck, unsure if their trauma has a purpose. What would you say to them right now?
Just know that the Lord loves you. I too were in that place, and at one particular time and point, I thought the Lord had forgotten about me. But as I begin to do introspective and search myself, I know that there is a God. And sometimes we often ask this question and we throw out fleeces and we say, God, if it's you, do this, do that. Maybe you want to throw out some fleece if your faith is not to the level to believe that there is a God. Throw out a fleece and believe whatever you ask God for, that God is going to answer. And when he do so, whatever you promise him to do, do it. And know that you're never alone. You're not alone. You have purpose. That's why you're still here. All the pain, all the traumas that you have gone through, you're purposely here for a reason. And you may say, I don't think so, but I'm going to tell you today that you are. Because if God did not need you here, you would have been dead with your friends a long time ago. You'd have been locked up somewhere. You would have been cracked out somewhere. But God still is merciful unto you. So know that today that Jesus loves you and I love you too. And you're going to make it because better days are ahead.
Pastor G, I thank you so much for being here with me today. It means the world to me.
Yes.
How can I support you? Where can we follow your ministry?
Well, you can follow me at @pastor_G, and you can also go to GRT Church. And for the Facebook, you can just simply go to GRT Church.
Thank you for everyone who tuned in today to Ageless, Fearless, and Unscripted with Dr. Cheryl and my amazing studio guest, Dr. Yorie Gipson. We look forward to having you join us each and every week to be a part of the Ageless, Fearless, and Unscripted podcast, a safe place for you to be loved on, valued, seen, heard, and appreciated. See you next week.